Right?
This is not an email. This is an instant message, or a series of instant messages between two S&P officials who were chatting back and forth. As I show you these, you'll see that what they're talking about whether they should rate a certain deal. Here's what they said. Official number one, by the way, that deal is ridiculous. Official number two, I know, right. Model definitely does not capture half the risk. Official number one, we should not be rating it. Official number two, we rate every deal. It could be structured by cows, and we would rate it. The committee went back to investigate whether S&P had in fact rated this particular deal, the one the instant message discusses. And yesterday, the SEC informed the committee that the committee staff that it indeed had rated it.
And then it turns out that the ratings were based upon home price data that was taken from the middle of the bubble. So there was no data in these models from any period when housing prices fell. That goes into the category that most accountants call GIGO.
GIGO?
Do you know what GIGO is?
No, I don't.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Right. Well, you make me think of Enron. Remember the all of those scandals at the turn of the century when the accountants were in on the fraud?
Yeah.
Who can we trust?
The raters were rating things that clearly did not warrant A ratings. In one of the hearings, I think it was Congresswoman Watson from Los Angeles, who said on the same day as one of the ratings agency gave a AAA rating to the city of Los Angeles, they gave a AAA rating to Lehman Brothers 4 days before they failed.
How could any rational person believe that a long-term investment in Lehman Brothers was as safe as a long-term investment in California? That's one kind of quirky because we're in a little trouble. But something is amiss if a credit rating agency can give the same assessment.
That is an indictment of the process. And more importantly, those hearings revealed rating shopping. That if I thought you were going to give me a bad rating, you're not hired, I'll go to somebody who'll give me a good rating. Well, that was characteristic of the Enron era as well, where accountants, they were shopping for accountants, and the business would be given to accountants who were more flexible. So these gatekeepers, the lawyers, the accountants, the credit rating agencies are crucial to the fair operation of markets. And it was the failure of the credit rating agencies that Alan Greenspan found surprising and disappointing, that they didn't use self-interest to monitor risk.
It's as if the good housekeeping seal of approval, which was the standard when I was growing up, was applied to a brothel or a casino, right? Take a look at this.
You were just gambling billions, possibly trillions of dollars.
Well, I wouldn't refer to it as gambling.
Well, clearly do you believe there was greed?
The people that are watching this debate here or this discussion, they're still waiting to hear an answer as to how this is benefiting them.
I have a lot of people in my district who feel that they've been defrauded, and they're mad as hell.
It's clear that greed led to not only see no evil, hear no evil, but report no evil. That it's clear that there was fraud here, but there's also, to me, incredible gross incompetence.
And they think that in light of what has happened to them, that someone ought to go to jail. Someone ought to go to jail. And the more I hear in these hearings, the more I read, I am inclined to agree with them. I am inclined to agree.
So does it come down to the basics of ethical behavior, fairness, and justice?
It does, but, you know, as I hear those Congress people expressing the outrage of their constituents, I have to ask a question of accountability for our elected officials. You've got to step up and do more to make sure that there is proper oversight before you let the money go out the door.
You're saying there's a lot of grandstanding there?
The theatrical component of this is very high.
The other big story this week is the bailout of the automobile industry in Detroit. Your whole focus is economic justice.
Yes, it is.
Is it just to bail out these incompetent, poorly managed, irresponsible magnates who run the automobile industry into the ground?
1 out of 10 jobs in the U.S., think about it that way. Don't think about the managers. Think about those jobs, the jobs of people who are working in dealerships, the jobs of people who are working in parts manufacturing, the jobs of people who are working for creditors of these auto companies. There is a web of connection to these 3 companies that extends deep into the American economy.
So the answer is yes. You think we should do it?
We should.
And should we fire these incompetent managers?
Well, I think clearly the managers who produced this disaster in the middle of this economic storm ought to be given the opportunity to retire.
Well, now that's being just to a fault, it seems to me. No, I'm serious about this.
We're at a fragile moment in the global economy, and if this industry is allowed to fail, it would create a death spiral of consequences that are so interlinked that we can't properly calculate what the full impact would be.
You have described a private sector in disarray and a public sector that's incompetent and out of touch. How do we not leave people feeling despair?
Well, the despair is going to be dissipated by action, by citizens, like those people who went into the plant Republic window and door in Chicago. People have got to stand up. They've got to demand accountability. And I believe, frankly, that this past election was the beginning of a process of standing up by citizens who were tired of being disappointed in what they were told about the reasons for going to war, who were tired of getting stagnant wages when the highest paid people in our economy were getting windfall compensation packages for failure. And they decided that enough. They wanted a different way of political leadership. And I believe that this era of accountability is not over, and our new president-elect will see from this newly energized Democratic, small d, Republicans and Democrats and independents all insisting on his accountability. So he's unleashed a set of energies in the country that will hold him accountable as well.
Emma Coleman Jordan, thank you very much for being with me again on The Journal.
Thank you so much, Bill. This has been wonderful as always.